Hi, beautiful people. It's Dr. D. I have really been enjoying my recommitment to post with you on a weekly basis, usually on a Sunday morning during the 10 o'clock hour Eastern Standard Time. But I mentioned there might be a few other times when I post, and this is one of those times I couldn't wait till Sunday. I felt like I needed to get this out now. Living Greater. I don't post or call this segment Living Greater because I have this one intent for you, for me, for us to live large, big house, big car. That's fine. Have at it. Good. Okay. But the greater intent about living greater is to understand your power, to hear, see, be where you need to be, when you need to be there, to access what you need for whatever the purpose at hand or whatever the need is. That for me is the greater. Living in a more lifted way to ascertain whatever is needed for you to accomplish whatever the goal is, big, small, medium. And so I think it's important to understand our power, our internal power that's connected to all the other external things around us to help us live greater. So I also believe in energy, spiritual energy, dreams, visions, and those types of things. And so I want to share with you, I'll share with you a few things. One is my father, Bishop Jones, I love dearly. Several years ago before 9/11, you guys, most of you in our generation, we know where we were 9/11. Other folks know where they were when King was assassinated or something like that. So we know where we were 9/11. I think that something could easily come down the pipeline. And I don't say this as a doom and gloom. I mentioned my dad. I'm coming back to that. But I don't mention this as a doom and gloom. I mention this because regardless of what comes down the pipeline, whatever happens externally, it's imperative that you understand your power internally that can lead you to hear, see, know where to go, know what to do to survive, to live greater in the midst of destruction, to live greater in the midst of calamity. This for me is why I love the history reframing, talking about the history of my ethnic ancestors, African Americans before me, particularly coming through slavery and the civil rights movement, because many of them had an internal knowing that allowed them to help see, where do I go, what do I do? Not everybody, but those that did. And we depended heavily, the previous generations depended heavily on those individuals who were open to understanding. And so I've mentioned, I love talking about Harriet Tubman and figures like that, Rosa Parks and so forth, because they had moments where they had to understand what it meant to live by their gut, their instinct, and it allowed them to live greater in the midst of calamity. And so I mentioned my dad. And so several years ago during, right before 9/11, maybe about a month before, he had, here in Tampa, Florida, he had a dream, a vision. He was sitting, and it happened on two occasions where he was once sitting and he saw an explosion at MacDill Air Force Base. And then on another occurrence, matter of fact, that same day, he said he saw an explosion at MacDill Air Force Base, and then he looked over to the right and he saw another one at the Tampa airport. I said, wow. And so he knew that there was some metaphorical significance to something's about to happen. So let's kind of prepare our hearts and our minds so that we can, see, speak, live, and also pray. Also pray for souls, for individuals that could be, might be, will be impacted. And sure enough, within a month or so, 9/11 took place. The two planes crashed into the building, and his phone would not stop ringing that morning. And so, and again, this is not about doom, destruction, be scared, but it is about living in a state of consciousness where you are aware, because I do think when we do that, we're able to, one, hear and see so that we can live through any destruction externally, and also that it allows us to maybe even neutralize what could have been a greater calamity or a greater impact. I really do believe that. That's why I appreciate what Iyanla Vanzant is doing with the 1 million awakening. I believe it's this Friday, December 15th, for 1 million souls to awaken and to, in the same moment, with unified breath, utter up prayers on behalf of our country and so forth. I think that's needed, and I think that's going to be much more powerful than we might imagine. So here is why. I had a dream this morning, about 3 o'clock this morning. And again, a lot of times when we see and hear things, it's very metaphorical and symbolic. And so what I saw was we were at a family gathering. Beautiful home we were at. Everybody's having a good time, and I was in a smaller room, maybe like a little piano room, with a few other individuals, including my father. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, my father says, he said to someone standing next to me, I don't know who that person was, "Go see what's about to happen outside." He just pointed with great certainty. Go see what's about to happen outside. And everything after that was second, 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 second. And in the moment of him saying, "Go see what's about to happen," you could hear or see nothing. And so as the person exited to see what was happening, it was almost as if there was a soundboard, an equalizer that they needed to check. But as soon as they did, I heard a plane, and I thought, oh, it's a plane landing. The airport is there. Another second, it got too loud, and it was too low. And I thought, that's not right. Another second, and the plane then looks like a big semi-truck crashing into the building, the airport, so to speak. And then you saw rolling flames. Our children were outside, and everything was so quick, we didn't have enough time to run out and physically save the children. And so at the end of my dream, I just remember reaching out and kind of calling out Jesus as the flames were rolling by. So I don't give that as gloom and doom, but I give that as I absolutely believe that we can use our sensibilities to live greater meaning, to live with awareness, and that we can live in a way that we can hear and see where to go, what to do. If you can't get a hold of some kind of 911 phone call, so forth and so on, to hear and see and know where to go for survival and for existence, even if that's needed just for 2 or 3 days, right? And also to have a consciousness and a faith that and a unification in terms. I absolutely believe what Iyanla is doing, that our thoughts are very effective, and I do think a unified prayer. Her goal is to get 1 million people to pray with the same voice, so to speak. I believe it's this Friday, December 15th, and I do think it helps us to neutralize what otherwise could have been greater. And gosh, I had a thought and it just escaped me. Maybe it'll come back. And so I share this to say, I hope you listen to some of my other posts and what other spiritual tools you have at your access so that your consciousness can be lifted. Trust your guts. Trust your instincts. Trust your guts. Trust your instincts. They work more than what you think. You know, kind of like when you're in traffic and you're like, something told me to go over there. You know, something just told me to do that. So trust your gut. Trust your instincts. Listen, don't get tricked by the partisan Republican Democratic stuff, okay? I'm going to say something, and I don't want you to think I'm a partisan person, because I voted Republican and Democrat. I voted for George Bush twice, and I voted for Barack Obama twice. So I'm just so not committed to a Republican or a Democrat. I think it's a big cloud. What sits behind the cloud are other truths that you need to be aware of. And so I say that because, you know, social media kind of went on a little rampage when Vicky Yohe, a singer who's known for her gospel renditions, she's white and known for that kind of black sound. She posted last year that image of Jesus going into the White House with suitcases and associated that with Trump President Trump going into the White House. And so there was a lot of backlash. And I was not a fan of that post by any means. But there might be an ounce of truth in that many evangelicals think that Trump is somehow a form of Christ likeness going into the White House and going to bring some spiritual consciousness. I don't think he's that. I respect his human dignity, even if he has a difficult time respecting others. But what I do think is that this leadership has the capability of being so destructive that we will need to pray. We will need to pray. And prayer works. That's the good thing about it. Prayer does work. Our consciousness and our thought of positive energy, it does work. I believe that. I absolutely believe that. Otherwise, I wouldn't be pastoring. I wouldn't be doing these posts. So yeah. Trust your gut. Trust your instinct. Learn to listen to the God in you that is connected to God all around of us. All around us. Learn to listen to the God in you that is connected to God all around us. It will save lives. I believe that. All right. Welcome to Greater. It might not sound great. It might sound like a little doom and gloom. And again, that's why I love reflecting on history and what appeared to be such gloom, doom seasons in history and how people lived greater through it. And that's why I spend a lot of time paying attention to historical references and figures, because I think they give us clues, because every now and then a generation has to know its power. And I think we might be a generation where we have to know our power, our God power on the inside of us. Let it rise. Listen to it. Trust your gut. Trust your instinct, so you know how to live, navigate, be greater in the midst of physical happenings that might not be great for you. And yet you be great and live greater in the midst of. All right? That's my heart. That's my passion for you. Be blessed and welcome to Greater. It's possible. Welcome. Invite greater living, greater understanding, greater liftedness, greater consciousness. Welcome to greater consciousness. All right. Bye.